Welcome back into the Dynasty Nerds podcast. I am your host, Garret Price, and I am here with my friend Andrew Mott. Andrew, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Feeling a little under the weather, but I'm excited because today we get to play a little bit of Frankenstein.
Yeah, this is pretty fun. So basically what we're going to do today is we're in combine season right now, and so we're looking at a lot of individual traits for these guys, who's going to run the best 40, who's going to have the best vertical. And it kind of got my brain going a little bit. And I was like, what if we pick who we think's the best at all these different qualities that we would be evaluating for? And you could just leave it at that if you want to be boring. But in my mind, I'm like, what if we put all these traits together and do a Frankenstein type thing to build the ultimate wide receiver in the 2026 class? So the only real rule that we have in place is that we're only allowed to use each player once. So there are some players that you could argue you could use multiple times, especially if we're doing running back, like it's like Jeremiah Love could be used a lot, but we're doing receiver today. But we can only use each player once. So there are going to be somewhere it's like, it could fit, but it's a perfect fit here. So we might have to save it. And we'll see. We'll see if we agree too, because we don't know each other's list yet. We know the categories, but we don't know each other's lists. So, Andrew, we could mix these up. We have kind of a list out here. We can mix them up a little bit, but let's start with this one here. Let's go with size. Let's go with size here. And this is the guy that just, when he walks off the bus, you're like, that's the wide receiver one. Just looking at him, he looks like the wide receiver one on the team. Who was the name, or, some of them I have like 3 to 4 names even that I would like consider, but who's the guy that you had for size on this one?
Yeah, I was really diving deep into the class, and I was like, there's these names that we probably won't know until after the combine, or most people won't know that their size might be a little bit better. And I was like, I'll leave them off because I want to talk about some guys that everybody is familiar with right now. But one of them was like Jeff Caldwell from Cincinnati. He's 6'5", 222. And I was like, he should be the guy that we should use. But I went with Malachi Fields as one of mine.
That was
6'4", 222. Like, he's the full frame of a wide receiver one. My secondary suggestion, if you didn't like it, was going to be Chris Brazzell. But that was kind of the two guys that I went with. Yeah, that's the reason why I went with Malachi ahead of him, was because you have that full frame.
Yeah, I went with Malachi Fields as well. And this one, I could have been talked into. You're right. There were some lower tier guys that we could have put on here. And I have a couple guys that are like a little bit lower tier. But I wanted to keep it for the most part truly like the big names, the ones people are excited about and things like that in this class. But Malachi Fields, he just fit this one to a T. So I ended up going with Malachi Fields. But yeah, Boston was a guy that you could potentially look at. Brazzell was one, but the weight on Brazzell, he is a little on the skinny side. So that was something that I had to kind of take into account. So for me, it did end up becoming Malachi Fields, and then everybody else really there. So first one was easy. We didn't disagree. It was kind of our main guy for both of us. So we're good to go on that one. Let's go to the next one here, and let's go with speed. Speed's one where we're gonna find out pretty quick who the like true correct answer is, because this one is like long speed. We have like burst / quickness later, but this is like true, like straight line down the field speed. So this one, we might look like really smart or really dumb by tomorrow, depending on who does really well or really poorly in this one. But who do you have for speed?
Two names that I think have legitimate track speed in this class. One of the first ones is going to be Zachariah Branch. I think he has track speed, and I think so does Brendan Thompson from Mississippi State. So I'm looking at those two guys. If I have to pick one, I'm going to go with Brennan because I don't think he fits any of the other traits that we have to fill today. So for the gamesmanship side of this thing, I think he's the speed guy, and Zachariah maybe could fit another category down the road.
It's funny. So far we're 2 for 2. I had Thompson too as the guy that I think has the best chance to be the top 40 in this class. I do think Zachariah Branch is another name that we could consider. And I think that there's going to be a few guys that do run in the 4.3s. But Thompson has the best chance to maybe even break a 4.3. I don't think he's going to be setting like a record like Xavier Worthy or anything like that, but I do think he's up there with like those true speed demons in this class. So I do think Brendan Thompson is the call there.
Yeah, and the good thing is he's not doing what Isaiah Bond did in telling everybody that he's going to set a world record the day before, and then he goes out and runs a 4.4 or 4.3, whatever it was that he ran. But like, it wasn't close to the world record.
No, it was pretty rough actually. All right, let's go then to Yak, and I think that there's a few players that we could really strongly consider here. The two names that came to mind right away, though, is Omar Cooper and Makai Lemon. Those were the two guys that I was like, I really feel like it probably has to be one of these two players.
I have one of those guys on my list, so that will probably be the name that we should go with. It's Omar Cooper. Okay. The other name that I had on mine was Skylar Bell from UConn. I think Skylar Bell is really good after the catch, and he's another name where maybe a little bit of the gamesmanship of trying to save the Lemon types and the Concepcion types that I also think are good after the catch and use them somewhere else in a trade that I think is maybe a little bit more important for our wide receiver Frankenstein. But Skylar Bell's another guy that I think is really good after the catch from UConn and could be considered here. But Omar Cooper was my number one choice. So sounds like he was yours as well.
Yeah, Omar Cooper was the first name that came to mind, then Makai Lemon. I actually do have some Skylar Bell on my sheet here, not in this category, though. So we can get to that because I think there's a category on here that is a tough one to quantify. But I think Skylar Bell embodies it a little bit better than maybe some of the other guys. So I think we should save Skylar Bell. And let's go ahead and put Omar Cooper with our Yak. So that at this point is going to give us Malachi Fields for size, Brendan Thompson for speed, and then Omar Cooper for our Yak yards after the catch type guy.
Ability. Yeah.
All right. I feel pretty good about this so far.
Yeah. I mean, so far it's a good wide receiver. We might be building the wide receiver one in the class.
I think there's a chance. All right. This is a big one. And this is one of the ones that I feel like could be the most hotly contested. And it's going to be best hands. What hands do we want to give to our Frankenstein monster here? And there's a few different ways to look about it. Like, is it most reliable? Is it the ability to make big time catches? Is it some sort of in between there? That's what makes this one the most difficult because it's a little ambiguous on it. So where were you wanting to go for hands?
I'm kind of feeling like for me at least, it feels like it should be a little bit in between the reliability and the big playability. And I think this is one of the categories where I'm looking at that big three that we have in this class, and I want to pull a name or two names even from it. I'm going to give you my two suggestions. My number one is Makai Lemon. Makai Lemon might have the best hands in this class, especially considering his size coming across the middle at the contested catch point. Like, he does so much when the football is in the air and coming down with it. It just feels like he's coming down with footballs that he should never even be able to come down with. Like, Makai Lemon's hands are incredible. He's my number one suggestion. Carnell Tate would be my other suggestion. And I would lean Lemon because when we look at the other things in this class, Lemon does some of these things well. I don't think he does the best at them in the class for everything else. So I would lean Lemon there and save Tate for one of these other categories.
All right. So you have two of the three names that I had on here. Makai Lemon was my first one. Carnell Tate was my second one. Third one, I had Denzel Boston. I think Denzel Boston has some really, really, especially when you look at just like that vice grip type hands, like Boston really has that. But I have a couple other areas I could see him being the guy in. But Makai Lemon was the first name that came to mind. I think he's got great hands. Didn't drop the ball much at all, but also made some big time catches, some miraculous catches, things like that. So I anticipated us debating a little bit more, but so far we've been
Turns out
pretty
we're
much
watching the
lockstep.
same film. We're watching the same film, I guess.
It's true, because sometimes you do, you're like, how did you come to that conclusion on that guy? What the heck? But no, we're pretty much in lockstep right now. So that's making this pretty easy. Now, you said that there was one category that you were not going to let me sway you on all of these. Is route running the one that you weren't going to let me sway you on?
Yeah, because there's an obvious choice for route running in this class to me, and that is Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. I think he's the best route runner in this class. I think he can play all over the football field. He can run every route, and he does it very well. He's very savvy with his tempo, his pacing. Like, to me, everybody knows on this channel so far, like, this has been my guy. I fall in love with these route runners, and Jordan Tyson is the best route runner in this class in my eyes right now. So he would be my obvious selection for the route running trait for our wide receiver. But if you really wanted to, argue me on it, Garrett, we could go somewhere else. I do have a deeper pull that I think is a really good route runner in this class that might save us a Jordan Tyson trait later down the road. I was going to say Antonio Williams from Clemson. He's a very savvy route runner as well. So I could go with him, but I think the obvious and easy choice, if we want the best route runner in the class, you got to use Jordan Tyson's route running.
So this was I put Jordan Tyson as my guy here. I only had one spot where I was like, I really think he's the best. And this was the one that was like the clear, obvious Jordan Tyson spot for me. Because I do think you could be nitpicky and say, like, there's other guys that might be kind of close. But like realistically, especially of these biggest names in the class, I think he tempos his routes really well. I think he's very smooth. He creates good separation. I like him quite a bit in the route running ability. So I am going to go with Jordan Tyson as the best route runner as well. So we didn't have to fight. You didn't have to disown me for not picking him here. Man, like I'm just surprised how much we're agreeing, which is not a bad thing at all. All right, so let's go to contested catch here. And for me, I thought there were two names in particular that I thought would be really good ones for this spot here. And it was Denzel Boston and Jacoby Lane. I think those are the two guys here.
I got the exact same ones.
You have the same ones?
Yeah.
Do you prefer one strongly over the other? Because I do have another potential spot for Boston, although he's like the second one for me on the other one. So I have Boston ahead of Jacoby, but it's not by much. Like I could go really either way on it.
I have Boston ahead of Jacoby as well, and I don't have Boston listed for any of my other traits.
Okay.
So if we wanted to use him, he's both our number ones right now. I feel like that makes sense. His contested catch is it's so good, and it's obviously a lot of that has to do with the size and the physicality that he plays with as well. But he's just a player that I think for this specific trait makes a ton of sense. Jacoby does too, but it just feels like just a little bit less physical than a guy like Boston is. And maybe that's because of the weight that Jacoby plays at.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he just carries that more physical frame with him. And then I was also talking about the hands. He's got those like really, really strong hands when like a DB's fighting for the ball. Like he's not giving that ball up. Like he's got those vice grip hands. So I think this is probably the best spot for Denzel Boston. So I think we got to go with him here. And I'm like trying to clean up my list now because I think, man, for the most part, it's really been the first guy we've talked about every time is the guy that we end up going with. And so, yeah, we'll go with Denzel Boston here. And then this is probably the most unique one because there's not a great like measurable for this one. There's not a great way to highlight it. This is a little more on vibes since we're not like a coach of these players and we're not like, we don't always know exactly what they're being asked to do on every play. But this is the IQ. What receiver do we think has the highest IQ in the class? And so the way I was looking at this, and I'm curious to see how you viewed this. But Lad McConkey was a guy that I viewed as a player with like a really high IQ. Even last year, like he didn't end up panning out as well, but like Jalen Royals seemed to have a really high Q at the position. This is somebody that it seems like he has a plan every time when he's going out there. He sets up his defenders really well. Understands like where to sit down in zone defenses. Just like little things like that they just seem to really get well. That's how I'm kind of picturing this. How do you see this one kind of classified there, Andrew?
It's kind of the same thing that you said. It's a guy that I feel like every time I watch him, I'm like, he just knows where he needs to be on the football field when he needs to be there. And he does it well by manipulating defenders and setting people up. Like he works back to the quarterback. These are like the small little things where it's like, it just feels like he's making his job and the people's jobs around him easier every time that he steps on the football field.
Yep, absolutely. Does a lot of little things right, for sure. All right. So with that being said, who is your guy for IQ?
Yeah, this is one where I think we could definitely use Carnell Tate from Ohio State. So he's one of the names that I have there. My other name that I would suggest would be Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. I think Jeremy does a really good job at being where he needs to be, working back to the football, being friendly for the quarterback. Like I think he does a lot of those things really well too. And he's a guy where you could throw him on the list as an IQ play because he may not be the best at some of these other remaining traits that we have, and it would save us a Carnell Tate for something if we wanted to down the road. But I think Carnell's probably the best at it in this class right now.
All right, so this is the first one where we do not have any of the same names. All right, so
okay, that's good. It's not tangible, so we're just kind of going, like you said, off vibes.
It's vibes a little bit. I went with Skylar Bell on this one. We're looking at somebody that's not the most athletically gifted in the class, even at times like had some drop issues and some things like that. But he was, in my opinion, successful because of his IQ. Like he was a solid route runner that was constantly setting up his defenders. He was a player that was always seeming to be in the right spot. Even like scramble drills, he understood like what to do on scramble drills, like go deep. If it was a short route, you go deep. If it was a long route, you come back to the quarterback. Like just a lot of like little things he seemed to get right. So for me, it was Skylar Bell, but I don't hate Jeremy Bernard either. I think he's another guy that does play with a high IQ, seem to know what he's doing. So I'm open to either one. Any strong opinion on that?
No, I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on it. You want to save Tate for something else, right? That's why you're not even acknowledging.
He has to go to the next one. That's the one where you're not going to sway me. Like I don't see any way he doesn't go on the next one.
And the next one, honestly, it's a hard. Like I was struggling with what we even meant by that. So it may, once we talk about it, may be better. But I think for this one, like I'm okay going Skylar Bell if you feel super strongly about that. I think you're right. You know, a lot of he's not the biggest wide receiver. He's not the most gifted athletically. So, winning is going to be off of savviness and I think IQ and things like that. So you can't really say the same thing for Jeremy. He's not like a crazy athlete, but he's fine size for the position. And I think he's a better athlete probably than Skylar Bell is. So I'm okay maybe with going Skylar Bell here.
All right, let's go Skylar Bell. I think smart player. And I think that's how he's become successful at the next level. So, and we'll see what he does when he gets to the league and that kind of stuff too. And sometimes these guys come out afterward. We hear about like some of their interviews and things like that, and how like some coaches are blown away by some stuff that they were saying or drawing up on the board and stuff like that.
We're hearing that right now this morning about Elijah Surratt. Surratt is supposedly killing it with his football speak. Like people are just like blown away by how he's talking football.
Nice. You love to hear that. All right. So Skylar Bell, IQ, that's where we're going to put him. The next one's Pedigree. And I don't think we can go anywhere else other than Carnell Tate. And here's this one I could see being a little more up in the air. So here's what I was thinking when I was thinking Pedigree. Number one, how were they viewed coming out of high school? Like, were they a player that was highly sought after, highly recruited, that kind of stuff? He was a 5-star guy, one of the top players in his class at the position. So I think that already puts him at or near the top. Now, Zachariah Branch was also a 5-star. So, that's something else that you're like, okay, well, maybe a Branch could go there as well. But then when you saw he went to Ohio State, so he went to arguably like the best coaching staff and all that kind of stuff, and a place that like churns out wide receivers. So I just think when you put all of that together, he has that like full pedigree that you're looking at. And then also a guy that we expect to be one of the first wide receivers taken in this draft as well. So broadly viewed as far as the entire package goes, like one of, if not the best wide receiver in this class. So I think all of that together just makes Carnell Tate like the far and away like clear option on this one to me.
Yeah, and I have zero issues with that. I think it makes total sense. And I was looking, I think probably a little bit more of like recruiting pedigree as a prospect coming into it. And so my name was actually Zachariah Branch. He was the number 1 wide receiver in his recruiting class. So he was the guy. And obviously he hasn't played at small schools. He's went out and played at Georgia and USC and these other big schools. So he was the name that I was going to throw out there. But I'm more than okay throwing Carnell Tate. We haven't used Tate yet, and we only have a couple more traits, and he probably fits this trait the best of the ones remaining.
Yeah. And it was just one of those with all of those things in his favor. And Branch was the other one that like I could see and consider because of the high school pedigree. But with all of that together, it was just like, I feel like it's got to be Tate here.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, let's go to Burst. And, this is kind of the, sometimes it's guys that aren't necessarily the fastest. Sometimes it is, but it's that quick step, that initial, like who gets that movement right away, that acceleration, that, like who's that guy that's 0 to 60 right meow. So who'd you have here? Because the two guys for me that kind of fit this one was Zachariah Branch, who we were just talking about, and Casey Concepcion were the two guys that really stood out to me in this one.
Yeah, Casey's on my list as well. He's my number 1 suggestion. I think his explosiveness off the line of offline of scrimmage is one of the best in the class. So he would probably be my first choice. And since we have a matching name there, it probably makes sense for us to use him. The other name that I had was Deion Burks from Oklahoma. I think he's really quick off the line of scrimmage as well. He's really fast. Explosive in and out of breaks. I don't think he's the best route runner. I don't think he's the fastest overall player in this class, but it just seems like when he makes movements, they're sudden and they're really quick. So I think Deion Burks is another name that I could have used there, but Casey Concepcion was my first choice.
Yeah, let's go with that because Branch was mine, but I don't see them drastically different in that category. I think both guys, that's how they win. They win with their suddenness. And so I could see that. So that gives us almost all of our categories. And we've got one category left, but we've got Malachi Fields at size, Brendan Thompson with speed, Yak is Omar Cooper, hands Makai Lemon, route running Jordan Tyson, contested catch Denzel Boston, IQ Skylar Bell, pedigree Carnell Tate, burst Casey Concepcion, and who's going to wrap it up for us at physicality. And I kind of pulled, I don't know if I would say this is a deep pull here as one of my two guys, but it's for my number 1, especially since we've already used my number 2, Denzel Boston, somewhere else. I now only have one guy in this category. For me, it's Eric McAllister, wide receiver, TCU. Watching him play, he plays a very, very physical brand of football, breaking tackles, throwing guys at times, going up and getting the football and being physical at the catch point. Who did you have for this category?
Yeah, I could definitely see Eric McAllister. I have 2 names that we haven't used yet.
Okay.
I agree with you too with I think Denzel Boston is a name that I would definitely want to use here if we didn't use him somewhere else. But because of that, I went with Chris Bell from Louisville. I think he is a super physical wide receiver. It's everything that he does just feels like, I mean, we compared him to AJ Brown early on in the cycle a little bit from the size speed combo, some of the physical combo. Like people have in this draft cycle have called him like a linebacker playing wide receiver. That's the physicality that he plays with as a receiver. So I think he's somebody that we could definitely consider here. The other one is Elijah Surratt. I think he's very physical too. Maybe not as physical as Bell and McAllister because it doesn't seem he's as, for lack of a better term, as mean at the game as maybe some of these other guys are,
Sure.
but he's also a very physical player. I mean, you look at the touchdowns, you have to be a physical player to come down with that many touchdowns in a season. You have to be physical to be a red zone target like that.
For
I
sure.
think he's another name we could use. So Chris Bell, McAllister, Surratt, where are we at?
I mean, I don't strongly disagree with any of them. So I think Surratt would be the last one for me of those three.
Me too. Me too, yeah.
So let's put him at the bottom, but I'm okay with doing Chris Bell. I think Chris Bell, it's a slightly different kind of physical. I think Chris Bell is just built like a tank. You know what I mean? Like he's more of that like AJ Brown physical, where I feel like Eric McAllister is more of that Michael Pittman Jr. physical. So like they are both incredibly physical players, just in different ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but if we're putting Chris Bell's physicality and the mindset of his physicality in a size of Malachi Fields with a contested catch ability of Denzel Boston, like now we're starting to get a real physical wide receiver there.
This guy's mean. This guy's
mean.
But he's flying because he's running like Thompson. So yeah. All right. So that wraps things up for us. Malachi Fields, Brennan Thompson, Omar Cooper, Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Denzel Boston, Skylar Bell, Carnell Tate, Casey Concepcion, Chris Bell, Super Soldier is what we have here. So somehow we got the DNA from all those guys, super serum into one player, and watch out Calvin Johnson, because I don't know, we might have topped you.
And have fun, Pete, trying to Frankenstein that image together for the people at home in the edit.
He might not even try. Like he might.
Yeah, it's going to be a list of names and traits, which is fine. I don't blame you. But if Pete, if you want to go the extra mile, Frankenstein this thing.
Yeah. Good luck with that. So we'll see how that all plays out. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Leave a comment below on who you would have for each category, because I want to hear some of these other monsters that are out there, because I think there's definitely, we talked about it. There were several categories where I think there were multiple names you could potentially go with. And maybe if you piece this puzzle together slightly different, maybe you do get a little bit of a better player. Maybe you do get somebody that's slightly more talented than the guy that we came up with. So I think there's a lot of different ways to go about that. But we appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Andrew, anything else before we get out of here? Because we got a tiny bit of time. Anything else that you're looking at this weekend for the combine? Anything that's sticking out to you that you're really wanting to keep an eye on?
I think, man, there's just a couple guys that I'm watching specifically. I'll keep it a little bit wide receiver related, just because that's what we talked about today. But I'd like to see Denzel Boston run a 40 somewhere in the high 4.4s. If he can run in the high 4.4s, I think he's a guy that moves really almost aggressively into that first round mock draft type of territory. So he's a guy that I'm watching closely for his 40 this week. We're not going to get Mekhi Lemon running the 40. He said that today. So that's a little bit disappointing, because I would have liked to see the long speed on him.
Yeah.
And then who else? I want to see Casey Concepcion running the 4.3s.
Yeah. At his size, he needs to be pretty fast. I would really like to see, I'm excited to see some of these like bigger guys in the gauntlet drill. That's always one that I want to see, is like, how fluid are you? The Surratts, the Bostons, the Malachi Fields is actually probably the one I want to see the most. Like,
guys like Bryce Lance too, who I think could be a sleeper on day 3.
Yeah, because he's a player that didn't get. It's really tough when they are an early declare that didn't play at a big school, because A, we didn't get to see them go up against the best competition, but then B, we don't get to see them in the All-Star games either. So we really never get to see them truly against their peers outside of the limited stuff that we get at the combine. That's really the only time we get to see these guys truly lined up against their peers. So that's making Bryce Lance a really tough eval, because this is all we're going to get is stuff like the gauntlet drill, running some of these routes, that kind of stuff. That's really all we're going to get out of him. So it's going to make that even more important.
Yeah. And it's not like he has, I mean, they do have a quarterback but I don't know if it's going to be one of those like nationally televised pro days that, I think back to like previous years when like Trey Lance got his big old pro day that everybody was out there watching. So like, he's not going to get the stage of a big pro day from a quarterback that I think guys that benefited. What was that? That was Christian Watson's year, right? Was he
Yeah, Christian Watson.
Yeah, Christian Watson got the pro day bump, right?
I actually think they were a year apart, but Christian Watson got to do stuff at the pro day and like run routes and stuff when
right.
when
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think Lance was 21 and Watson was 22.
I think you're right. Yeah. So, anyways, I don't think he's going to get that big stage. Other than this is the big stage for him, so we'll see that one. Other than that, though, like I'm just interested to see what else happens here, man. I mean, we got a couple guys that I wish we could see. Obviously, can't see him because of injury. Jordan Tyson's not going to work out this weekend because of injury. Chris Bell's not working out this weekend because of injury. Carnell Tate supposedly is only running the 40-yard dash. Did I see that right?
I have not seen that, but could very well be true.
I think I saw that he's only going to run the 40 and do nothing else. So, which is interesting because I feel like that's the one that like sways everybody's opinion the most.
Right. That is a very interesting one. Only wants the straight line speed. But I think we know like I didn't need to see him in the gauntlet drill. Like, no. There's some of that kind of stuff where it's like, I don't need to see that. So maybe that's why he was like, no one else needs this. Like, I'm good. One other like random like tidbit is I want to see Ted Hurst. I want to see his weight because he was listed at 185 in the season. Then he came in at 208 at the Senior Bowl, which is such a drastic difference. Now I like what they do. They make these guys weigh in 3, 4, 5 hours before their testing. So they don't have a chance to like bulk up early in the week and then like, just by drinking a butt ton of water and then pee it all out, like, throughout the week and whatnot. Like they have to be pretty much what they're actually running at. So if I'm still seeing him in like at least the mid 200s, I feel great about that. But if he drops back into the 190s, I'm like, okay, that might have been a little artificial. What's his real like?
We were UFC weighing, strategy there for that one at the Senior Bowl. I agree. That's another one. I think another one too, like from a weight standpoint, guys like KC too, like he's listed
these smaller guys.
I think he's listed at 190, but if he comes in at like 185, 180, then it's like KC, come on now. Like, and he's another one too with the height. Like if he's not 5'11 and he's 5'10 or 5'9 and a half, we're talking about a player that I think can play Z, but because of the size is going to be forced to only be a slot guy at the at the NFL level.
Yeah, we'll see. Very, very interesting stuff coming out the next couple of days. I'll have to wait and see. We appreciate you guys. See you on the next one.
See ya.